In May of 2013, in a speech to the United Nations Human Rights Council, its 23rd session, Silviano Maria Tomasi, the permanent observer for the Holy See to the United Nations, stated that an estimated of more than 100,000 Christians are violently killed because of some relation to their faith every year. The persecution of Christians still exists throughout the world, even though most people are not really aware of it or refuse to acknowledge its existence, thinking that the persecution of Christians ended a long time ago with the Christianization of, say, the Roman Empire. However, this is not the case. Many Christians throughout the world, particularly the Middle East, Africa, and Asia, face persecution for their beliefs and faith, with them being murdered, raped, robbed, and otherwise are given a hard time for their faith. And many Christians have been martyred for trying to preserve and spread the faith in many non-Christian countries and regions throughout the world. In this video, I'm gonna be going into depth in an attempt to cover this subject, though I recognize that I will not be able to fully encapsulate this subject in which many have suffered, so I do encourage you to do your own research and look into this topic. So to begin with, I would like to discuss the Islamic apostasy laws. As you know, there are many countries, particularly concentrated in the Middle East or in the Arab world, which have Sharia law as their official state law. In Sharia law, apostasy is when you renounce the Islamic faith if you are a Muslim already and convert to another religion, which now is most commonly Christianity, and can incur many serious punishments within the Quran stating that apostates should be killed. As such, the death penalty for apostasy is prevalent in Afghanistan, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Nigeria, and Mali, to name a few. And in many other places you can face prison time and is considered a crime, or it can even result in the loss of child custody and the end of the marriage. This is one of the major factor in persecution of the Christians, as many Muslims who convert to Christianity are punished as a result. In addition, many who were never Muslim but were always raised Christian, however, claim to be Muslim in order to escape certain persecution, are also victims of this law, since they were considered Muslim, though they technically were never a part of the religion. They are treated as Muslims and as a result punished. But this is also just a minor factor in an aspect of the persecution of Christians throughout the world. I will now go through examples of anti-Christian persecution throughout the world. So beginning with Africa, for example, in Sudan, a Sudanese woman was sentenced to death for apostasy, which is an example of the apostasy laws of Islam. This taking place in 2014, because the government of Sudan classified her as a Muslim, even though she was raised as a Christian. This being an example of the issue I mentioned earlier. And further, in Algeria, the Bishop of Oran, Pierre Calvares, was murdered by Islamists in 1996, and in the same year, 7 monks from the monastery of Tibrin in Algeria were kidnapped and later murdered. Further, in Africa, Chad has a problem of Christian persecution, namely through non-state actors such as Boko Haram and tribal herdsmen who often persecute Christians, even though with Christianity making up a minority of the population at 41%, though this is a significant population. and very close in that region, in Egypt, Islamist terror organization Jamaat Islamiyah has been persecuting Coptic Christians, particularly in Upper Egypt, and has attacked Coptic Orthodox churches, with it being on a news story that 21 Coptic Egyptian Christians were murdered by Islamists. As I mentioned previously, non-state actors such as Boko Haram, the Taliban, and ISIS have been major contributors to the Christian persecution. Since they are non-state actors, they can pretty much get away with it more and are often extremists. As a result, they have kidnapped Christians, forcibly converting them, seizing their properties or destroying them, and murdering, raping, and kidnapping them for ransom, and many other atrocities have been committed. Further down to sub-Saharan Africa, in Nigeria, over the course of the 21st century, 62,000 Nigerian Christians have been killed by the terrorist group Boko Haram, Fulani herdsmen, and other groups. In addition, Christian refugees in Nigeria from the north have often not received aid and have been actively barred when it's found out that they are Christian, which is an issue the Bishop of Nigeria has often talked about. Now moving on to Asia. In Indonesia, which is actually the biggest Muslim country in the world, persecution against Christians focuses mostly in West Papua New Guinea, which has historically been majority Christian. However, with Indonesian programs to settle more Muslim Indonesians there, that's resulted in conflict, as the natives have been, in general, more poorly treated and have had Sharia law imposed on them. Though this also gets into the whole West Papuan struggle for independence, which is another issue entirely. I do recommend that you do more research on this, as it was in the news some months ago. There was a good documentary called Bombing Paradise by an Australian YouTuber who covered this issue. And right in the region, in Malaysia, although Christianity is tolerated, there are strict laws against proselytizing to the Muslim community there, with those Muslims who appear interested in converting to Christianity being sent to re-education centers by the police or even members of their own family. In addition, there is a fairly lengthy prison sentence for apostasy of Muslims. Though in general there isn't much government action against Christian communities, there is some minor local non-governmental action by the natives there. However, it is quite limited to what you would expect in most other countries in the world with different ethnic or religious divides. And then in China, while Christianity is actually legal, although it does have one of the fastest growing underground communities in the world, and churches are required to be controlled by the Chinese Communist Party directly, and all those that are not in violation of this are often destroyed, and their followers are arrested and sent to re-education camps. This, of course, followed the Cultural Revolution in China after the Second World War and their victory in the Chinese Civil War, which resulted in many Christians being persecuted and churches being destroyed. And near India, near China, there is some growing Christian persecution from Hindu nationalists, which tend to see Christians as a scapegoat for political problems, and is also following India's attempts by the Hindu majority to take control of the entirety of the country and centralize and unifying the country more. Further, the large Muslim communities in India also persecute apostates of Islam who are converting to Christianity. Now, the last country on this list, which is probably a country you would not expect, is Israel. Attacks on Messianic Jews and Christians, particularly Palestinian Christians, have been growing by non-government uh, uh, organizations, with the general population generally being hostile and small groups actively targeting them. Even though missionary activity itself is not illegal in Israel, it is illegal to offer money or material inducements to the missionaries, making activities far more harder, and likewise making it harder to proselytize there. In addition, encroachment. There's been accusations that the Israeli government has encroached on Christian holy sites, and in addition, many Christian graves have been desecrated throughout the Israel and Palestine. And in addition, it's also important to note that many Christians also suffered during Al-Nakba, which was the deportation of millions of Palestinians during the founding of Israel in 1948. And in general, there's a negative attitude towards the Christians and Messianic Jews throughout Israel. Now, as I've said, this is a very complicated issue, and this is all I really have time to cover. However, I do hope this spurs you to do your own research on this and see whatever you can do. I'm sure there are Christian and even non-Christian NGOs who do try and help Christians throughout the world, so I would recommend to donate to them. And I would also like to state that this video is not necessarily is not meant to be an anti-Muslim video. Most Muslims, and for that matter Arabic people, are quite hospitable and some of the nicest people you can meet on the world, and I have a respect for many Muslims throughout the world. But however, this video is merely meant to highlight certain bad actors in the community, such as jihadists and Islamist terrorists who actively persecute Christians in addition to criticizing their governments. Initially, I actually intended this video to be a sort of explanation of why I believe the Knights Templar should be remade in order to protect Christians throughout the world. However, after I was doing some research, I decided to make this video on the Christian persecution in general. However, I will be making a video on why I believe the Knights Templar should be remade, and also some in-depth of how it should be done. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you've been aware of this, made aware of this issue, and I hope you enjoy. God bless. Have a nice day.